Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my man cave for the Layover Live. I'm joined this evening by Mark and Lyndsay. Hi, Mark and Lyndsay. How are you? Welcome.
We're good. How are you?
Yeah, really good, really good. I was just wondering how many people are watching us. We've got 11 people already who are going to listen to our droll, inane chat about aeroplanes for the next 40 or 45 minutes or so. How's your week been?
Linz, how's your week been?
Very much the same day for day with a baby.
Ah, yes, I forget. Yes.
Yeah.
My desk driving's been very, very good this week. Thank you.
Yeah, mine too. In fact, I've managed this week to go and have some lunch with some people, particularly from Saab, and I spoke to a couple of people from Lockheed Martin, and we were talking about this beauty. The brand new Grippen, which is gorgeous, but I believe it's having some trouble with being underpowered. And if you look at it, it's only got one engine. It looks very Typhoon-esque, but it looks awesome. This picture, I don't know where it came from, is just amazing. But I was kind of hoping that it would be the F-35 beta. But then I went and had lunch with Lockheed Martin, and we ended up talking about the F-35, this amazing photo with this unmanned aircraft. Sorry?
Is that a real photo?
That's a real photo, yeah. This utterly amazing. I mean, this is really sort of not just 5th gen, but 6th gen. Looking at the manned or the human platform, human crewed platform, with the unmanned platform working together, absolutely amazing. But they did make a mistake, and I don't know if you know, Lockheed Martin made a major faux pas last week when they were giving out their Q3 results. They managed to say that they'd done pretty well at the Skunk Works. And everybody was wondering why they'd done pretty well. And they've actually had to come out and say that they are now building a special fighter or a special aircraft for the USAF, which the USAF would have to confirm. And rumor has it might be the SR-72, the famed airplane to replace the U-2 and the SR-71.
Wow.
Yeah, so the budget looked pretty cool because it was all the money was in the Q3 results. Amazing, I thought. It is a real photo, by the way. That's not a mock-up. That's actually a reliable source.
Yeah, I assume that was a rendering. That is an extraordinary looking thing.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Yeah.
Isn't the first rule of being a highly secretive defense contractor that you don't accidentally announce a new aircraft type in your?
Well, I don't think anybody actually knew that they were going to announce that. They just genuinely said, I think it was in the call, they turned around and said, oh yeah, we're doing pretty well. Skunk Works is doing pretty well. They've made this kind of money. We went, hang on a minute. How have they made that kind of money? Nothing's been announced. Big black projects. Jumping away from airplanes for a minute. I just got to share this with you. This was so funny. Our friend Gilbert, who will be coming on the show very soon to talk about points and travel and all things next year when we can actually get out and travel. He did a short video, which I've got to share with you, which was absolutely amazing. This was, and I'll tell you the story afterwards, but listen to what Gilbert had to say.
Breaking news from the Situation Room. This just in, United Airlines will allow economy passengers to use first-class lavatories, meaning people who paid for first class might have to rub elbows with people who didn't. The news, highly controversial of course, is expected to be the first of many, with airlines looking to modify procedures on board in response to COVID-19. For more, please check out upscaled.com for the latest coverage and most important breaking news.
I thought that was amazing. So Gilbert did an entire article about United Airlines saying that they were going to allow economy passengers to use the first class loo. They actually put out a press release. I'm not going to shoot a press release, but it is utterly bonkers that they felt they actually had to do a press release about the fact they were going to allow economy passengers to use the first class loo. To be fair, I'd be a bit hacked off if I'd paid all that money to sit up the front and
I guess it's not that other people are using the lavatory; it's that you might have to queue.
I think that's the thing. You know, you pay for the. I'm not going to queue for the lavatory, and now yeah, we've got 300 other people who are going to be using that. Maybe 2 lavatories. It could be a bit of an issue for them. I don't know. Anything else that you've noticed in the news? There was that thing, Mark. You were talking this week about conspicuity, weren't you?
I did put up a little tweet about conspicuity. So I'm lucky enough now to have a share in a Cub. It's a 1943 built aeroplane, but we've got a nice little electrical system on it, and the airplane's got Mode S transponder and so on. And the more I've got back into light airplane flying, the more I recognise that I think there are fewer and fewer excuses why you shouldn't really be electronically conspicuous to enhance kind of safety for those and those of you your own airplane, but also those around you. Yes, so I posted a little tweet about that. But go on, Scott, you were saying.
No, the thing I was going to say is, I don't know if you're aware, but the CAA came out this week and announced they're going to give us some cash. So if you want to put an electronic conspicuity thing on your airplane, whether that be something like an Airbox 2 or something like that, they'll give you half back up to the maximum of £250. So as most of these units run at under £500, effectively the CAA is going to pay for half, which I think is absolutely amazing. Very similar to what the FAA did when they mandated the ADS-B in the US.
Hugely successful in the States, and well done to the CAA for doing it. Fantastic. Yeah,
I mean, they're only giving, I think it's 250 quid maximum, but hopefully that'll push the GA flyers who really can't afford it to try and buy it in some way. As we're chatting, I just want to remind everyone, if you want to ask any questions, try and put them in the comments, and what we'll do is we'll come back to you. We know there is a backlog. Somebody's mentioned already about UAV avionics. There's a backlog for those. Pilot Husky, who flies his very green aeroplane.
I love it. I think the paint job on it is excellent.
It is excellent. There is a backlog for all of these. So as soon as the CAA announced it, they're going to give this money. People obviously bought them all up. Not that I would condone it, but if you could pay for it and get a receipt for it and wait for it to be delivered in the future, the CAA only has a certain amount of money, so probably worth doing that now. The reason I mentioned it was last time I went to Oshkosh, I did some amazing flying. I was really fortunate to fly with the D-Day squadron. And they had stick-on electronic conspicuity for ADS-B back then. So because it's so difficult to integrate modern ADS-B into these aircraft, they literally had one that stuck on the window, which was pretty cool, actually. And I wondered why we didn't do that kind of thing here. Really bizarre. But also, as Oshkosh mentioned that, tickets are available. Are we going to do it?
Well, we need a very, very big RV. I mean, you're not staying with us, Scott. But we need a very big RV. But yeah, provided everybody's out of lockdown. Goodness me.
He is hoping it's going to be the end of July.
I've never been to Oshkosh before.
Oh, really? It's amazing.
I'd love to go.
It's amazing, actually. Excuse me. I've been a couple of times. I even convinced Sharon to go once, as you probably know. I told her there was also a craft fair alongside, which she could go and look at her crafts and stuff. And when we arrived, and she said, "Where's the craft fair?"
Aviation craft fair.
I may have made an error. The craft fair is an airplane craft fair. But yeah, we stayed in an Airbnb second time we went, which was pretty cool, actually. It was really fun. We stayed with a whole host of people in the same house, all from all over the country, who were all AvGeeks, and we had an amazing time. So anybody who's never done it, give it some thought, and let's have a big squad go across there. Why not? Last thing I wanted to mention this week, which is again something Mark tweeted about earlier on in the week, and you said you tweet a lot. You tweet a lot more than you think. Was actually
feedback.
It was actually about this, the new Berlin airport. You came up with some amazing things about it, and the bits that you liked and about the old one, and I loved the parking thing that you showed. I don't have the photo to show you, but the parking thing that you showed.
The bit I couldn't describe in the tweet is that in order to use that parking system, number one, it's important that you're not looking forwards, which is the direction the airplane should be going in, and number two, it only ever works if there's a German man standing on the jetty doing this, and he goes. And then everything's fine after that. But if he goes like this or runs away, then it's all gone wrong.
Yeah. So somebody's just come into the chat actually, and has talked. I'm just gonna bring this one up because I think this one's really funny. Is that the airport with the escalator to nowhere? Well, Ellie, just to prove that it is the airport with the escalator to nowhere, I've got a picture of it. Yeah, actually the airport's stunning. Have you got any idea when it was due to open? I mean, it opened this week, but when was it originally due to open? Any ideas?
8 or 9 years late.
Yeah, well,
a decade overdue, I thought.
Yeah, so it was first due to open on the 3rd of June 2012, and that was that was really the second time it was due to open. The first was delayed massively, and this one was delayed. The one in 2012 was literally delayed like a day before it was due to open. Yeah. It made interesting reading, actually. There were 120,000 defects that the health and safety executive, or the German equivalent, found in the airport. And that included 170,000 kilometers of dangerous wiring. There were lights that they could switch on but couldn't switch off. There were lights that were off that they couldn't switch on. Now, I'm hoping none of those were the runway lights. But yeah, it's a bizarre situation, isn't it? It's going to be an amazing airport, but actually it's in the middle of nowhere. And because it's taken so long, that there's no market now, because nobody's flying. But also it's got no connections into Berlin. It doesn't have a train station or anything, which I find utterly bizarre.
It's very strange. I saw there was a particularly peculiar thing, which is they had a jetty modified to take an A380.
Oh, really?
And ta-da! Now we've got an A380 capable jetty, but of course, all the A380s are going. So it's a real kind of sad irony. It's such a shame. And Berlin, from an aviation point of view, Berlin is a really interesting city because of its history and because of the old Berlin air corridors. It's also got a really interesting couple of museums. If you go out to Gatow, that's pretty awesome. Maybe we should do one of these on vertical lift because they've got an amazing vertical lift airplane there.
A what?
Do
you mean helicopters?
No. Well,
God, for that. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do anything on helicopters. Zero, zilch, nothing.
Or ships. You're bad at ships as well, Scott, aren't you?
If you give me a choice between a ship or a helicopter, I'd take the ship every time, and I know I'm going to be ill. So I think I am the only person who, on a calm day on the Star Ferry in Hong Kong Harbour, needed an ambulance when he got off because he'd been sick all the way across. Probably not the only person, but I was pretty ill crossing Hong Kong Harbour. It wasn't good. I've got a question here. Actually, you might be able to answer this one, Mark. It's from Adam, and Adam said, what's your preference on electronic conspicuity that's not a transponder, and why? Do you know about them very much? I mean, I don't know that much about them, to be fair.
Well, Adam's much more plugged into this than I am.
I know he is. And he's trying to pull this out of us, knowing that we don't know the answer.
So through my son doing quite a bit of gliding, and he glides at Lasham, so big shout out for Lasham Gliding Society, and definitely worth following Jordan Bridge, who's their deputy CFI, and you'll find him on Twitter as Soaring Glider. but obviously gliding world uses FLARM, and there's some power FLARM tools around. Anything which is combining that that picture, I think, is really a positive step forward. You know, you can pop it on your iPad and so on. It really is extraordinary, the kit that's available. But maybe we need to do a whole episode on the best kit that's out there now.
Adam, if you're listening, DM us and we'll get you on for an episode and we can talk about it. I
wanted to talk about the Turbulent. He flies a Turbulent, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, a little one. He was building an engine today of some sort. He didn't allude to what that engine was, but he said he'd get it flying soon. So interested to hear about that.
You'd snap a Turbulent in half.
Why?
Well, it's very small and you're very big.
What are you trying to say?
I think it's your bones. Just big boned.
What? Oh, upset.
Anyway, move on to the next subject.
Right, okay, right, fine. Yeah, so one of the things here, Oshkosh, get up to the tower if you can, see the briefly busiest ATC facility in the world. I don't think it's briefly the busiest, it's bonkers. I have been up there to see it. I'm very fortunate last time I went to Oshkosh, went with some press credentials and got some amazing access. And it is the busiest airport I have ever seen. And actually, there's not much controlling goes on. It's all kind of done on flow, which is really interesting. So the air traffic controllers, there's very little positive control goes on. It's you arrive over a point, you visually separate yourself from another airplane that's ahead of you. And if you can't separate yourself for speed or whatever that may be, then you fall out, you go round and you come back and have another go. It works really well, actually. And they get hundreds and hundreds of airplanes in a matter of hours in some cases. And that goes on for days and days and days. The best thing I ever saw was them all trying to leave at once. And the noise of that is just amazing. Somebody here agreeing with you, Mark, about the benefits of FLARM. Yeah. Hi, Tommy. Yeah, it is invaluable. And I've been looking into this recently. So many of you will know I've got back into GA recently, kind of pushed by Mark doing some GA as well and buying his own airplane. Sharing his own airplane. And I've looked at how you integrate the stuff into things like SkyDemon and use SkyDemon to bring up the FLARM picture or this electronic conspicuity picture on there. So I think that is one that we'll do in another episode when we haven't got a guest on. That'd be quite good actually to do before Christmas, because then everybody can buy the stuff for Christmas courtesy of the CAA.
Yeah.
Lyndsay, what have you been up to? You've been very quiet.
Well, as you know, I love a bit of 747, and there's
really?
There's two main stories that I've kind of seen in the news this week. So the first one was the 74 SP that got damaged. Now, there's kind of a bit of controversy as to how it happened. Some people say it got damaged in the hangar. Other people say that it got damaged in a hurricane. However, I'd say whatever the situation was, it doesn't look like it's going to buff out. So there's that picture there, and that was meant to be, so it looks like a wing from another aircraft is clipped underneath the nose. And then there's another picture as well where the actual wing of the 74 has been damaged as well. Now, there was only, I think, was it six or seven of them currently in service in the world, and only, I think, 45 ever built. So I think they're kind of, like all the 74s, they're on their way out at the moment, but it seems like such a shame.
This one looks in a terrible state. If you look at that wing, to rip it apart like that, it's awful. Yeah, I didn't know there was so few SPs ever built, actually, and it's a shame. I know this one's from the Sands Corporation, which effectively is Caesar's Palace. They own, I think, Caesar's Palace and a number of casinos in Vegas.
Yeah, that's right.
And they use it.
Mark and I can't decide if there was 45 built or 46 built. He says 46. I said 45.
Oh, well, you win. Always. Ladies always win.
I think a 200 converted back to an SP. Cut and shut.
A lemon.
That's what I find amazing about those pictures. It shows you how, when you think of how amazingly strong airplanes are, they put up with these.
Get back up. Yeah, cool.
Flying through thunderstorms and all sorts of things like that, and then when they find something that they're not really designed to come in contact with, they don't hold up very well, and it shows you the sort of optimization of the design and how incredibly fragile they can be in certain situations. I mean, look at the state of that.
I mean, it's horrendous, isn't it? I mean, it has literally looks like it's been. I know this will sound odd, but it doesn't look like it's hit something. It looks like one of those giant cats has come along and just eaten the end off of it. You know, those huge military cats that you see everywhere on Twitter. They've basically just eaten the end off of it. It's horrendous. Beautiful aircraft.
Pop Emma's comment up. Hello, Emma's an Airbus lady. We know that.
Where's Emma's?
There we go. We got it up.
Oh, right. Okay. Nothing is unrepairable.
Ambitious.
Do you think, Emma? I think the hole in the nose and the half the wing gone. And you got to remember, how old are these airplanes now? Do we think?
Well, this particular one was ex-Pan Am, so it's got to be well.
Yeah, that's
one of.
I think Emma's point is technically it can be done. It's just how big is your checkbook? And I guess if you're a casino.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. But it's the insurer probably.
Most of these ones are all the VIP kitted out, aren't they? I mean, they're meant to be unbelievably high end inside. Yeah,
I haven't seen any pictures of these ones. I have seen some others, though. There are others around. I quite like the Sophia one, which has been in the news this week as well. Finding that's an SP, and that found some water on the moon earlier last week, which was very exciting, and more on that to come in some future episodes of the Layover when we talk about going to the moon and Artemis and other stuff with some of the guests that we're going to have on, hopefully in December, which would be great.
I'm just going to pop this up. So this is pilot. So this is Kermit's dad. Kermit being the aeroplane. That'll be an interesting story because it looks like his dad flew some Iran Air SPs.
Wow. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because Iran are the only ones currently still flying, I think, a 100. And they've got two 100s, and they were the original ones. So when I'm boring you with the story, tell me to shut up. It was when the yeah, thanks. Yeah, okay, move on. No, it was when the DC-10 KC-135 KC-10 tanker RFP was out back in probably the 80s. The 747 was a contender for that, and they built two 747 demo airplanes and actually had number one. So number one still has the tanker station on it, the back of it, the boom, and the tanker station. And they basically, the Iranians, when it all died, and obviously the jumbo didn't make it, the KC-10 extender won the contract. The jumbos were sold to Iran, and Iran, through all of this, through all of the sanctions and everything, kept them flying. So I think it's only recently they've stopped them flying, I think. We just here, somebody's just saying, Kalita also flew the 100 until quite recently as well. Yeah, and there's also an evergreen one I saw on Twitter this week on the top of a swimming pool, and they're using it as a thing to jump out of to go round and down into the swimming pool. It looks amazing. It genuinely does look amazing.
Here, launch customer, or this week, I think, launch customer for the 777-300 freighter conversion.
Who was, sorry?
Kalita.
Oh, Kalita. Wow. I saw some stuff this week that people are now converting A320s into freighters, which, for short haul stuff makes a lot of sense, actually. There's going to be a few of those on the market over the next couple of years, I reckon. So it makes sense to convert them now and put a big door on the side and make some money out of them. Why not? Lyndsay, jumbo stuff. Sorry, we overtook your jumbo stuff.
Another thing I'm trying to convince Mark is, AvGeeks, the company that kind of do all the salvaging of parts, and then they make them into furniture or sort of decorative items. So
very good friend of mine, Darren. Yeah, I know him very well. Yeah.
So they've obviously had an influx of 747s. So yeah, here's one of the pictures of the side pieces that they're cutting out.
Oh my goodness!
Like that.
A lot of windows for some front rooms there, isn't there?
And a lot of them are already sold out on the website. So if you want a piece of it, you've got to get in there quickly. But during the evening, we've been watching some videos on YouTube about a company that does sort of specialist cleaning of vehicles and aircraft, and it's like oddly therapeutic to watch. And AvGeeks put two really short videos on Twitter of how they sort of strip the paint and then scrape it off and prep all the surfaces to work on. I just find it mesmerising.
Oh, really? Should we have a look?
Yeah.
We're literally going to talk about paint drying, or almost the opposite.
Oh, stop it. All right, here it is. Here's the video.
Oh.
I'm watching it drying.
Well, yeah, and then it bubbles up.
Look at that.
Oh, actually, that is quite cool, actually.
What, I mean, the next bit is even better.
Or the scrapey one.
Oh, no, I quite like that.
But some of the stuff they do, they've got Tinkerbell, the Virgin 7.4.
Yeah.
Like small kind of 50p size key rings as a sort of memorabilia for that. It looks really good stuff.
We need to, now that we've given him a massive promo for the last 5 minutes, I'll be looking for my discounted bit done. Just remember this, discounted. No, to be fair, I've paid full price for mine. I have ordered a window. And I'm waiting on it. Yeah, so a very special. Sorry,
Karen.
No, I haven't told her yet. Well, she might know now because she's watching this. So we could be in trouble. So if the door behind me opens and the stream goes off, just carry on without me. It'll be fine.
Yeah, tags. Yeah, we love a tag. I think I got you a jumbo tag.
You did. But there's so the battle for the television has been between watching paint dry and also the Inside the Spitfire factory. That's a really, really good series as well.
Yeah,
I haven't watched that. We got a thing about that here, haven't we? Inside the Spitfire factory. I haven't watched it. What's it all about? Tell me.
Well, so for anybody who's been in a room with me when I watch anything on TV about aviation, usually I ruin it for everyone. They've got the wrong tip tanks on that, or they didn't have that GPS until late 1993, things like that. So I usually ruin. I'm
going to interrupt you. So
films.
We watched, is it American Made? With Tom Cruise.
And I remember that. Yeah.
When they panned into the flight deck, and Mark would say, "Oh, this is like filmed for 78, and this bit of avionics didn't come out till 82.
Yeah.
Ruined it for everyone.
I think at one point I spied a GPS, and they'd have been really Loran C probably at best. Anyway,
really?
inside the Spitfire factory. So I dread anything a bit aviation-y coming on TV, because I always worry that it's going to be sort of slightly spoiled. But absolutely delightful series.
Seen that Newcastle Fly here has got an aviation tag cut out from an Airbus A321. I'm assuming that EI, that's probably going to be an Aer Lingus one, maybe? Yeah, it might be. Very cool indeed. Let us know if it's an Aer Lingus one. Be interesting to know. It could just be a flag of convenience, because Ireland became a flag of convenience for many operators. And Pilot Husky also, was it? Yeah. You love the Aerostar, don't you? I'm not a fan. I've got a friend who it's a Metrojet aeroplane. Oh, sweet, from Russia. No surprises there then. I watched the. Oh, go on.
I love the Aerostar. So I guess we've 10 house points to anybody who can tell me what's unusual about the 700p. We've got till the end. Tell me what's unusual about the Aerostar 700P. You'll never get this, Scott. You'll never get. Look at his confused little face.
A 700. I know somebody who's got an Aerostar. So Steve Giordino, who owns the company that moves leased airplanes all around the world. He's a really cool chap, and he flies around in an Aerostar. He has his own. So that's the only Aerostar I know about that actually anybody flies now, apart from Bob Hoover, who very famously did his
Aero Commander.
Oh, it was an Aero Commander, was it?
Yeah.
Didn't know that. So there was more than one.
So the Aerostar was a very specialist aeroplane. But yeah, 700p. Answer on a postcard, please. Hang on a second.
Interestingly, Pilot Husky thinks you're clueless. I'm assuming it's you.
No, he's right.
I think Pilot Husky must be the only one who's watching, looking at the comments. Interestingly, like he says, no. Thanks, mate. I'll remember that. Remember, I know your real name. I could out you now. I won't, obviously.
So inside the Spitfire factory, number one, narrated by Al Murray, who's brilliant and great if you like your Second World War history, or indeed being a pub landlord. But secondly, just the care and the detail that goes into rebuilding these things. We watched, I think, the last episodes on Monday or Tuesday. I think it says in the bottom of that image that we flashed up, and you can catch up on all four, I think, for all of those. But we looked at each other in about episode 4, and they've just got this big pile of bits. So where do you even start?
So it's next Monday, I think.
You know, how do you start creating something like that?
So never having watched it, are they original parts, or are they manufacturing this from new jigs and stuff like that, or is it?
I think the line between completely rebuilding an aeroplane from new and restoring an aeroplane is quite a slim one. But all of these aeroplanes have to be based on some parts from a historic aeroplane. And they touch on it very briefly in the series, but effectively the starting point is to agree with the CAA that you've got enough aeroplane there for this to be a restoration. Otherwise you're just rebuilding a Spitfire out of all new material. But the aeroplane that they follow through all of the episodes is being built for the Greek government. And it spent its time in the Greek Air Force, and it's a clip wing Mark 9, I think it is. It is very original.
What I thought was really interesting is that there's a little bit of there's something for everyone in there. So there's a little bit about engineering, there's a bit about flying, there's a bit about the history of it, there's a little bit about the kind of personal stories. So they managed to find some ex-Spitfire pilots, and then I think there's an engineer as well.
Yeah.
And they're able to kind of engage with them, and one of them gets a backseat flight, and it's really good.
We need to sort out a flight. So I think that's probably the thing we need to do, is sort out a flight just to see what it's like. That'd be awesome.
So that you're qualified to comment.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, if we're for journalistic integrity, we need to really just get in the back there and give it a go. I actually saw. I'm a dreamer. I'm a complete and utter dreamer. I was looking in Controller the other day, looking at some light airplanes, thinking what ones that Sharon may or may not allow me to even get anywhere near. And I was looking, and actually there's a thing called the Mark 26 Spitfire. Have you seen these?
80% scale.
Yeah, 80% scale, and they've got a little, I think it's a Rotax engine at the front, which is, not obviously going to make the meowing, growling noise, but you can have some big speakers put on and make some noise. But it relatively cheap. I mean, they were about, I can't remember the one I looked at, but it was something like £90,000 for this thing. And then I looked at the size of the guy standing next to it, and then that made me think, this one's for Mark, not for me. Yeah, it's a bit sort of
an 80% scale human, so I would fit.
It's to be fair though, it looks really good from a distance. I think from a distance, if you saw it flying by, you'd actually think, yeah, Spitfire, but it's making the wrong noise, so there's something wrong with it. You probably know, but it looks really, really cool. Loved it.
They're really cool. I mean, you know, I those of you who follow me on Twitter, very occasionally I'll sort of do the fantasy hanger, you know, lottery win. What would you fill your hangar with? And I usually sort of argue. People tell me all sorts of aeroplanes that I think, oh no, really. But you know, I mean, a Spitfire's got to be in there, hasn't it? A Spitfire's got to be in there.
It has. I've just noticed that.
There we go. Adams, put that up. Oh, Bahrain. Hello.
Dave Tully watching us from Bahrain. I'm assuming that's Dave Tully. Hello, Dave. Hope you're well. He flies for the same outfit as we do, flying a Plastic Fantastic. I used to be in the Air Force with Dave. I'm assuming it's Dave. Dave, if it is you, just drop us a little note to say that it is the one that I think you are. Hello there. We've also got, it's a Mark 26B, yeah, according to Adam, and it's 90%. You flew one that was V8 powered, nice little machines. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they were like smaller than that and had Rotax. Yeah, that actually a V8 powered one might have a bit of grunt to it. Still not going to make the same noise as a Merlin, but you're probably going to get a decent amount of speed out of that. Be interesting to know where that is and whether we can get our hands on it. Actually, Adam. Yeah, possible. Why not? Let's have a look. Daniel says, looking forward to episode 4. Are we boring you already, Daniel? I'm really sorry. Episode 4 is Gilbert. Gilbert's coming along. We had a little bit from Gilbert earlier. Yeah, well, Gilbert has continued to travel in the COVID world. He'll talk about that. He's done a bit of traveling recently, and he's traveled with his family as well back to the US, because Gilbert, being American, can do so, as can his family. Yeah, we're really looking forward to that episode, Daniel. I think we need to look forward to something exciting in the new year, possibly next summer. Get us all out.
It's quite interesting because I've seen a few videos on Twitter of people who haven't been complying with, face mask regulations. And actually, it tends to be, there's been, quite a lot of arguments and a lot of disruption, and people being taken off the flights. I guess rightly so. Whilst the regulations there and the rules are there, you'd hope that people would follow them. But there's quite a lot of, people that are still not wishing to comply with it.
Yeah, I've posted a few of these, and I'm sure you've seen them. And for me, I really feel sorry for the people who are complying on these flights and are disrupted by it all. There are people who genuinely can't wear a mask, and that's fine. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. I think it's just people who choose not to because they just don't want to, or they're trying to make a point. And there was a video on Twitter of 4 ladies from Germany who were just trying to make a point, that was all. And actually, there could have been other people on that flight who were vulnerable, who needed to travel, and they put them at risk. So for me, I don't want to get into the politics of that, probably like you, but I think people just need to comply, especially with the crew's instructions. If a crew member says something to you, you've got to comply with that, regardless of what your thoughts are on masks or anything else. That's just my topney worth on that. So, Daniel, the answer to that is yes, but I don't know Rashi Graham's story. So if you'd like to DM me, because my DMs are open, and tell me about that, we'd be open to hearing about that. Definitely, 100%. And yes, there will be, is the answer to that. We've only got 4 slots at the moment to put up the guests, the 4 guests that we've got coming for the next 4 weeks. And as this one drops off, some more will come. So hold on for that, yes. And please drop me a DM about Rashid. I'm assuming that it's an aviation-related story, or it wouldn't really fit with all this. But great. I've also got another one, another amazing story about an Indian Spitfire pilot, which it came from a captain from where we work, which was truly inspirational the other day. But that's for another time. Dave Tully is the right Dave Tully, and the fact that he remembers our trips well. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Dave. I'll probably ask you not to mention anything in the chat about any of the trips that we did together. Zero. We never flew together ever. You're making it up. It's all lies.
Okay.
A couple of things. Okay. What have we got here? Oh, do we think this is a good one actually? Do we think the CA will shut down GA again with the new lockdown? Mark, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't think they've thought it through. Is my honest answer. I don't think they've thought down to that much detail.
No, I think you're right.
If you take all the infrastructure away, then by definition it's shut down. I'm trying to get my 3 and 90 sorted this week, but the weather's not looking good for a 50 knot J3. Yeah, I think it does. Most people are out of practice now, and it's important to kind of operate fully cognizant of that. Whether you're a professional or whether you're a keen private pilot or whether you don't operate very much at all, but certainly the environment's changed, isn't it? The flying environment's really different now, and that can definitely load you up. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You know, if it's just for a month, yeah, then fair enough. But we're running into the winter season anyway, so I guess it was slightly fewer light airplane flights generally.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that last time, by the time the CA reacted to what the government was changing almost daily, and it is changing still daily, by the time they implemented something, actually we were out the other side of it almost. So they were always trying to play a bit of catch up, and perhaps this time they'll just say, like, interpret the rules as you see fit. If you're flying on your own in the airplane, the issue for me is not around the risk to the pilot per se. It's the peripheral risk. So, i.e., if you have a crash, are you unnecessarily taking up NHS resources, police resources that will be used for something else? I know none of us plan to crash ever, but that would be my. I know it's an odd one, but that's my feeling on it.
It's a great question, and
don't know the answer.
Safety impacts. We all use this word safety, don't we? But the question is whether it's changed the risk, and I think it's definitely changed the risk profile. Yeah,
just because people are at a recency.
Right.
I find I did quite a bit of flying a couple of weeks ago. And actually, I felt really good about doing, probably I did 6 hours in a week almost, which was amazing in a small airplane. I haven't done that, probably in the last 6 months. And it was really nice. It was really, really nice. Adam brings up a good point.
Which aircraft were you flying?
Oh, PA-28. Little one. So yeah, nothing exciting. In fact, it was exciting. I really had a great time, and really got put through my paces, as we've discussed, by a flight examiner who put me through my paces, and I managed to pull the wool over his eyes, and he signed me off as a CRI. So yeah, that was quite interesting. Adam makes a good point here, actually. How does he get to the airfield 25 miles away to do the flying? Actually, that's probably the thing that's going to stop you flying, not the CAA. Because that would be a journey too far, perhaps, in the next thing. Good, Mark. It looks like good news.
Perfect. Just when I'm back in the simulator to do my TRE revalidation.
Yeah. I think I was just going to say here that this one's pretty cool. send out reminders leading to forthcoming presentations. Well, if you want to look on the website, the layover.tv, you can actually find a way of setting up some reminders. So there's a couple of clicks underneath the show, and it will set up a Google Calendar reminder for you for any of the presentations we've got that are listed there. So up to episode 4 at the moment. So next week, we'll find out who's coming on next week, but it's Mandy Hickson talking about her book. We got a little trailer for that later. Week after, we've got Fraser Corsan coming on at Fastest Human Without Mechanical Means.
This is going to be awesome. I can't wait for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the fastest human without mechanical means. Really interesting. So 249 miles an hour, I think, which is pretty quick.
Hang on. I think I've missed the memo on this one. How did he get that fast? Or is that part of the episode?
Well, that's...
Hopefully
Okay. Well,
you should know. You're leading that episode, talking to him, Mark. So best to get going. Yeah. No, really, I'm really excited actually about that episode. Fraser is doesn't only do, and I'll give it away now. He doesn't only do this bonkers wingsuit stuff. He is an engineer at heart and has some amazing stuff that he will share with us from an engineering point of view. Stuff that he's been involved in the past and stuff that he's doing now, which is utterly amazing. Mark, I've got a picture here of an airplane which looks awesome. Tell me about this. What is it?
I'm just going to have a little moment. Right. Anyway, so that's the
moment. Are you, Lyndsay? What are you doing?
That's the Pipistrel Pantera. I think we can all agree that looks like it's going very fast already. It's a very good-looking aeroplane. Very glidery. Back end's very glidery there. You know, there's a wingtips very kind of glidery. If you spend any time at a launch point, you know, it's all very glidery. It looks really spectacular. The first one flying in the States now. There's a company called, I think, Wright Rudder Aviation, who are the sole dealer. Pipistrel have a history in building gliders, motor gliders, and so on. They've also built the first electric aeroplane that you can buy. And this aeroplane, it's taken a long while to get to market. They reckon it's sort of bonanza killer, that kind of, you know, Cirrus bonanza type thing. But the thing that they're looking at is hybrid powertrains for it.
What for, is this actually hybrid already, or
no? So that the one they have in the States has an IO 540, so very traditional engine. You know, it's powered everything from Comanches to Navajos to, you know, just about anything else, Pawnees. But they've built it with advanced powertrains in mind, which I think is really interesting because that might be the next generation. It also has about 150 million gear doors. It's got the most complicated looking gear door arrangement I've ever seen.
That's not going to cause any bother at all, is it? Landing on grass.
But how much do you reckon?
Well, so it's piston. So if it's Cirrus competing with a Cirrus Bonanza,
more or less than a Cirrus.
You can spend a million
more
Cirrus fairly easily.
So I'm going to go for $650,000.
So certainly the AOPA video that I watched, they reckon not much change out of $800,000.
Ooh, Sharon isn't going to stretch to that.
Stick with the window. Just stick with the window. That'll be fine.
It'll be fine. I'll stick with my window. Yeah.
I'd been on one of these kind of odysseys. Couldn't sleep. I was, you know, going through whatever the website was, an aeroplane AvController or something like that, and I found a Sia Machete SF260C for sale in Italy, which I thought, and I started looking around the building, you know, what could I sell? I could sell a dog, a child,
kidneys.
Then I watched this video, $800,000. That's a lot of money, you know, and you do start to wonder how the industry is going to keep going at that kind of money. But it looks really cool. It looks really nice, nicely finished. It's obviously a very fancy glass cockpit. G3X, I think, is what they've gone for.
All right. I just think when we look at these airplanes now, and this one's very reminiscent in shape to the Grob, because it's probably got its roots in the glider, as you say. It's the Grob, the turbine one. I can't remember what that's called. Somebody will perhaps remind us. That's about $1.5 million. But they're almost becoming mini airliners now, aren't they? I mean, these are as capable, if not more capable, than the A350 I fly in terms of their equipment. They've all got SBAS now, the WAS, they can land, LPV minima on these small airplanes. So, it's becoming more and more complex. And I know this is for another time, perhaps not for this week, but it's to talk about, the PPL syllabus, actually. And, is that fit for purpose now for these airplanes? And, I'm not going to start you off, Mark, because I know you're passionate about this, but I don't think that jumping from a Piper Warrior, having done maybe 50 hours on a Piper Warrior, jumping in this, if you've got the money, and scooting off in this, people are going to kill themselves, or something's going to happen. I mean, it's a big leap up from a Warrior to something like this, and the same could be said of a Cirrus.
My view is maybe slightly the other way around, which is that the utility of these airplanes is now fantastic. I mean, it's amazing, and you could, if you've got the correct aviation system around you, like the States is a bit more forgiving, if you like, of private pilots. But you can use this thing in place of jumping on an airliner and so on. But you're right. I think there needs to be something that fills in the gaps and leads people into flying these airplanes. And
and it's just going to be more and more challenging. I mean, I came from a military background, as you know, flying the Herc, and I went from the Herc, which was a traditional 6-pack T, to the Jumbo, which, at the time, the Jumbo was probably 2 generations behind what was coming out of the factory at that point, the 400. But for me, that was a massive leap to go from analog to glass cockpit. And I was young back then. Well, youngish. Yeah, okay, I lied. No, I was young once, yeah. Dave Tully remembers. If Dave Tully's still watching, he remembers when I was young and I still had grey hair when I was 19. Dave will confirm that. Dave, if you're still watching, just confirm that that's true. But it was a massive leap.
I heard a great phrase the other day. There's a guy with a garage full of cars, one of these car videos that we were watching, and he said, "Just remember, you're never too old to have a great childhood." And I thought of you at that point.
As Sharon says to me, I can either be a pilot or grow up. I can't do both. Yeah. And here I am at 49, still, thinking inside that I'm 19. Interesting here, a fully loaded SR-22T is now over $1 million. Holy moly! You can get a jumbo jet for that.
I don't like Cirrus. I'm sorry.
Why not?
Why don't I like them? I just don't. I mean, I've flown them a few times. I don't think they're very nice. I just don't think they're very nice to fly. They're a great airplane for flying around in, for being transported. If you sit in the back, you sit up nice and high, and you kind of look over the people in the front. They're pretty quiet. But I could buy the best Bonanza on the market, and I could do everything to it, and I could then fly it until for the rest of my life for less than that money.
Yeah, agreed. And I've been very fortunate, as you know, to have been to the Cessna factory, Cessna stroke Beechcraft facility at Beachfield, and see Bonanza's been built, and they start off as other things, and as they go down the line, they decide whether it's going to be a King Air or a Bonanza or a G58 Baron. It's such an amazing thing. And the big thing that struck me about that factory in Wichita is that they still build it all by hand.
Yeah.
So if you buy a King Air or a Baron or a or a Bonanza, you've had an airplane that has been built from hand all the way through to the finish. It's truly amazing, really cool. In fact, we might organise a visit once COVID is over and go and see how that all works, because that would be amazing to share that. Interesting here. Those who fire the ballistic system instead of the forced landing when are safe. Yes, costing insurance. I'm presuming you're talking about the CAPS system there, which is the the parachute that comes out the top. Yeah, I know there are a couple. There was one particular one which I recall, which was actually in Kermit's back garden, actually in Gloucester, where the pilot inadvertently went into IMC, and instead of turning around or just continuing, panicked, pulled the caps, and actually brought a running, fully functioning airplane down on the parachute into a back garden in Gloucester, literally into the back garden. And it got stuck in a tree, if I remember rightly. Kermit here might be able to just confirm if my story was right. Yeah, he picked up. Yeah, he said it had been fired, and he picked up a brand new one. Yeah, oh goodness.
Of course, they train you to pull the chute.
I know.
Wow. And yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Maybe that's a bit of subject matter for another time.
Yeah, so Adam's just said here, ultimately, if you do the service course, you pull, no discussions.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam, get that. And to be fair, that's kind of going back to the discussion we were having earlier about the complexity of the plane, is that, if it does overwhelm you, the easiest thing to do is just pull that and live to fight another day. I suppose that's what they're trying to do it.
So I very sadly, one day I watched an aeroplane come the other way on the back of a low loader, going to Farnborough here, and it had been flown by a chap that I used to fly with a long while ago, and he's a very famous name in aviation, and a very talented pilot. He used to have a Spitfire in his strip in his back garden and all that kind of thing. And he had an engine fire. He was busy trying to force land the aeroplane, and it just got to him about 10 foot before the ground, and he lost his life. So, you can see why Cirrus make that argument. You really can.
I know. And for another time. Wow, 59 minutes. Where did that hour go? Thanks, everyone, for coming along tonight. Just before we go, just going to talk a little bit about our next guest next week. Really excited to have Mandy Hickson coming on. Lyndsay and I have been utterly obsessed by her for the last couple of weeks, because we've been reading a book, which is a lot of fun. Can't wait to talk to Mandy about that. But before we go, here's a little bit about Mandy. Or not. I have no idea. We've done so well with the technology. absolutely awesome. I can't wait. I was doing so well with the technology just to that last bit. I couldn't believe it. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Mark, Lyndsay, as ever. Yeah, great to chat with you, Lyndsay. Speak to you all next week. Don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget you can watch this back on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe there if you haven't done so already. And we'll see you all next week. Bye. Bye.